My friends, listen carefully. There comes a moment in your life when you stumble onto something so rare, so dangerous, so undeniable, that it changes everything. And the world around you, the people who built their illusions on fragile lies, they don't clap for you. They don't congratulate you, they panic, because you dared to see what they prayed you'd never notice. You stepped into forbidden knowledge, and the second you did, their entire house of cards began to tremble. The moment you discover forbidden knowledge, you threaten every false authority that survives only in your ignorance. Think about this carefully. The only reason power structures stand is because people believe in them. They rest on compliance, on blind acceptance, on the masses never asking why. Kings, governments, corporations, social idols, they don't hold real power in themselves. Their power comes from you giving it to them, from you believing the illusion, and once you pierce that illusion, once you see that the emperor has no clothes, their entire facade begins to crack. Why do you think societies have always burned books, silenced thinkers, and crucified truth-tellers? Why do you think every revolutionary who saw beyond the surface was treated as a madman, a criminal, or a heretic? It wasn't because they were wrong. It was because they were right. And because being right meant others could no longer be controlled. Your ignorance was the fuel that kept false kings sitting on their thrones. Your blindness was the leash around your own neck. And once you pull it off, the panic begins. The panic isn't random. It's not emotional noise. It's strategic. Because if one person sees the truth, it can spread. It can multiply. It can ignite rebellion not of violence, but of mind. And rebellion of mind is the greatest threat to any false authority. When you learn forbidden knowledge, you don't just become smarter, you become dangerous. Because you carry a seed of truth that can no longer be buried. They don't fear your strength, they don't fear your wealth. They fear your clarity. Clarity is lethal to lies, it kills them instantly. Lies demand shadows, they demand silence. They demand that you never stare too deeply, never ask too boldly, never wonder too loudly. But when you do, when you shine the spotlight of truth, their fragile structures tremble. They panic not because you are loud, but because you are awake. Because once you know, you can't unknow. And once you speak, others will hear. Every age has its forbidden knowledge. In one era, it was the earth revolving around the sun. In another, it was the dignity of a slave. In another, it was the corruptions of governments and religions exposed for what they really are. And today, it might be even deeper psychological chains, hidden algorithms, economic manipulations, illusions of freedom that feel real, but are scripted to keep you in line. The exact content of forbidden knowledge shifts, but the reaction is the same: panic, suppression, attack. Because your awareness is their collapse, you need to understand something. You stepping into forbidden knowledge doesn't make you broken, it makes you whole. They'll tell you you're paranoid, they'll tell you you're delusional, they'll tell you you're dangerous. Why? Because that's the only language left to them. They can't debate truth. They can't disprove what is real. They can only smear you, silence you, shame you into retreating, because the last line of defense for false authority is always ridicule and fear. But the moment you refuse to retreat, the moment you stand in your knowledge and refuse to apologize for it, you become unstoppable. This is why they panic. Because what can you do with a person who refuses to be hypnotized again? What can you do with a person who has broken the spell? You can't buy them, you can't threaten them, you can't control them. They are no longer on your board. They've flipped the table, and once that happens, your empire of illusions collapses. You think history's great changes came from armies. No, armies came after. The spark always came from one person who dared to see and refused to stay blind. One person who stepped into forbidden knowledge and carried it like fire in their hands. One person who became a threat not because of weapons, but because of wisdom. This is the power you now hold, and they know it. That's why they're panicking. So don't be surprised when doors close on you. Don't be shocked when friends distance themselves. Don't be confused when institutions label you as a problem. It's not because you've lost your way, it's because you found it. You walked into the room they told you never to enter. You opened the box they told you was sealed forever. And once you did, you exposed the weakness behind their strength. You ripped the mask off the actors, and they can't bear the stage lights anymore. The panic you see around you is proof of your awakening. It's not a curse, it's confirmation. You have stepped where most fear to tread, and in doing so, you have reminded the world that knowledge is never neutral. It is always dangerous. Dangerous to those who profit off lies, dangerous to those who build cages for others, dangerous to those whose thrones exist only on borrowed belief. And here is the final truth: you will never be the same again. Once you step into forbidden knowledge, there is no turning back. But why would you? Why would you trade freedom for chains? Why would you exchange clarity for blindness? Why would you go back into the prison cell after you've walked into the open air? You wouldn't, you can't. That's why they panic, because you've already left the cage, and their keys are useless now. This is your power. This is your awakening. This is why they fear you. And this is why the world is about to change, because you had the courage to step into forbidden knowledge. The world is built on controlled illusions, and when you see through them, the system fears collapse. This isn't an abstract concept. It's the hidden architecture of power. Every society, every culture, every empire has had a core set of beliefs that were not chosen by its people, but installed in them. These beliefs act as invisible scaffolding, holding up the entire structure of control. The rules of money, the rules of morality, the rules of who matters and who doesn't, none of these emerged spontaneously. They were built, brick by brick, into the minds of the masses to make the powerful untouchable. That's what controlled illusion is. A world scripted to keep you playing a part that benefits someone else, while making you think it's your choice. And when you see through that, when the illusion begins to flicker, everything trembles, because power is not an actual building, it's a projection. It's a screen. It's a play performed by actors who pretend to be kings, experts, or saviors, but who are nothing without your belief. As long as you're staring at the stage and clapping, they seem real, but the second you step back, the second you look behind the curtain and see the machinery, the spell breaks. And once the spell breaks, the whole system loses its magic. It cannot function the same way because the magic wasn't in their hands, it was in your mind. This is why illusions are always protected with such aggression. You're not just given a story, you're emotionally tied to it. You're shamed if you question it, mocked if you doubt it, punished if you reject it. Entire industries exist to keep you distracted from looking behind the curtain. Schools teach obedience disguised as education. Media sells fear disguised as information. Social platforms sell vanity disguised as freedom. All of it keeps you locked into a simulation of choice that isn't truly choice at all. When you begin to see through this, at first, you feel disoriented. It's like stepping out of a dark theater into bright sunlight. It hurts, you squint, you want to go back inside. But then your eyes adjust, you begin to see what's real, and in that moment you also see how much of your life was scripted. How many of your desires were not yours? How many of your fears were planted? How many of your goals were not born but manufactured? This is the most terrifying moment for any human being, because it's the death of an old self, but it's also the birth of a free one. The system cannot survive that birth on a large scale. It can tolerate a few dissenters. It can tolerate a few rebels. But what it cannot tolerate is mass awakening, because mass awakening makes the illusion collapse. It's like a magic show where the magician's trick is revealed on live television. Once the audience knows how it's done, the trick is no longer impressive. The magician loses his power. This is what governments fear. This is what corporations fear. This is what false authorities fear. Not your anger, not your weapons, your awareness, because awareness is contagious. You have to understand how fragile these illusions really are. They look solid, but they are paper, thin. Look at history. Monarchies that lasted hundreds of years disappeared overnight when people realized kings were just men. Economic systems that seemed unshakable crumbled when the fraud was exposed. Dictators who seemed invincible fled in hours when the crowds turned their backs. Illusions last only as long as the crowd believes in them, and when the crowd stops believing, no fortress is strong enough to hold the lie together. This is why the system fears you now. You've stepped out of the theater. You're no longer hypnotized. You've stopped clapping for the actors, and worse, you're telling others what you saw. You're holding up the script. You're pointing at the wires behind the magician. This is what terrifies them, not that you know, but that you might speak. That you might plant a seed in someone else's mind, because one seed grows into a tree, and trees crack concrete. Controlled illusions are not random mistakes. They are engineered. Someone benefits from your blindness. Someone profits from your distraction. Someone thrives when you obey. But here's the truth. Their entire power base is borrowed. It's built on sand, and once the tide of awareness rises, it washes away everything. They know this. That's why they panic when even one person begins to see clearly, because one person becomes 10, 10 become 100, 100 become 1,000, and 1,000 awake people are more dangerous than an army of 1,000,000 asleep. But here's what's even more important. Seeing through the illusion doesn't just destroy the system. It rebuilds you. It gives you back what was stolen. Your time, your energy, your clarity, your autonomy. Suddenly you stop chasing what they told you to chase. You stop fearing what they told you to fear. You stop kneeling to people who have no real power over you. And when you do, you become the rarest thing in the world, a free human being. This is what they dread. Not your rebellion, not your violence, your freedom, because your freedom makes their cages irrelevant. The illusions are breaking right now. You can feel it. People are questioning what they're told. They're doubting what they once worshipped. They're asking the forbidden questions. And every forbidden question weakens the structure. The system tries to keep up with censorship, with propaganda, with spectacle, but it's like trying to patch a dam with chewing gum. The cracks keep spreading, the pressure keeps rising, and one day the wall gives way. When you see through the illusion, you don't just save yourself, you light a torch. You become a signal to others. You show them that the exit is real. You show them that the door was never locked. And once they walk out too, the theater goes empty, the actors perform to no one, the system collapses under its own weight. This is the power of your perception. This is why they panic, because you're not just another person anymore. You're a spark. And sparks start fires. Never underestimate what it means to see clearly in a world built on lies. It is the ultimate act of rebellion. It is the ultimate form of courage, and it is the only thing that has ever changed the world. Empires don't fall because they're attacked from the outside. They fall because enough people inside stopped believing the story. That's happening now. That's happening in you. And that's why they're panicking, because their story is dying and a new one, your own, is being born. The reason they shame and silence you is because your awakening exposes their weakness. Most people think censorship, ridicule, or character assassination happen because someone has done something wrong. That's the illusion. The truth is far more revealing. These tactics aren't a reaction to your failure, they're a reaction to your power. When you awaken, when you step outside the boundaries of the narrative, you stop being predictable. You stop being obedient, and in that moment, you become a mirror that reflects their hidden fragility back at them. That reflection terrifies them. They cannot face it, so they lash out. This is why, throughout history, every truth-teller has been called dangerous. Not because they wielded weapons, but because they revealed wounds. They showed that the emperor had no clothes, that the priest was corrupt, that the system was a stage. And rather than face their own exposure, false authorities always follow the same script. They shame, they mock, they silence, they smear. They must, because your awakening is not just knowledge, it is proof that their power isn't real, proof that their moral superiority is a mask, proof that the inevitability of their control is a lie. Shame is their first weapon. They'll label you extreme, they'll call you crazy, they'll brand you a traitor. They'll laugh at you publicly, hoping you'll internalize their script and censor yourself before they even have to. This is not about truth or falsehood. It's about control. Shame keeps people small. Shame makes you doubt yourself even when you're right. It's psychological warfare disguised as public opinion, but if you stand firm, if you refuse to internalize it, the weapon dulls. Because shame only works when you accept it. Silencing is their second weapon. They'll delete your voice, ban your accounts, remove your platforms, rewrite your statements. They'll bury your message under noise or algorithmic invisibility. Why? Because your words are not just sound, they're seeds. And seeds grow. One truth in the right mind can unravel 100 lies. Silencing is an act of desperation, not dominance. It's not proof of their strength, it's proof of their fragility. They cannot debate you openly because open debate would expose them further. So they hide behind rules, behind vague accusations, behind safety or order. But really it's fear. Fear that your clarity might catch fire. The third weapon is isolation. They'll make sure you feel alone. They'll encourage friends to distance themselves. They'll create narratives that you're an outcast, a danger, a problem. Why? Because isolation kills courage. If they can convince you that you're the only one who sees the truth, you're easier to break. But you're not alone, you're not a mistake, you're not delusional, you're just ahead of the curve, and ahead of the curve always looks crazy until it becomes obvious. You need to see through this. Every attack, every smear, every ban, every whisper campaign isn't just about you. It's about the system fighting for its survival. It's about a castle built on sand trying to keep the tide out. It's about false authorities staring into their own irrelevance and doing everything they can to postpone it. And the harder they push, the clearer they reveal themselves. Their weakness leaks out in their aggression. Their fear exposes them more than your words ever could. Your awakening is like a floodlight. When you shine it on the stage, the actors can no longer pretend. Their costumes look cheap, their lines sound hollow, their props are cardboard. You don't even have to attack them directly. Your existence as an awakened person is an attack in itself. You are evidence that their hypnosis can fail. You are living proof that their grip is not absolute. And if one person can wake up, so can another. This is their deepest terror, not your defiance, not your words. Your example, this is why you're attacked at the level of identity. They don't just argue against your ideas. They try to erase you as a credible person. They know that if they can destroy your reputation, they can make others doubt you without ever hearing you. They know that if they can make you a caricature, a villain, a lunatic, they can scare others from following you. This is not an accident. This is the oldest tactic of power. It's why whistleblowers are mocked. It's why visionaries are exiled. It's why truth-tellers are painted as unstable, because the story must survive, even if reality burns. But here's the irony. Every time they attack you, they prove your point. Every time they silence you, they show that your words were dangerous. Every time they shame you, they show their own insecurity. Every time they try to erase you, they leave a bigger hole in the illusion. Their panic is a confession. It's them saying, "We cannot control this anymore," and the more they confess, the weaker they become. This is why your job is not to fight on their terms, but to stand firm in your clarity. Don't let their shame become your shame. Don't let their silence make you silent. Don't let their isolation make you forget how many others are waking up too. You are not a mistake. You are not alone. You are not weak. You are simply the mirror that reveals what was always there. And mirrors don't have to scream, they just have to reflect. Understand this deeply. Your awakening does not just expose their weakness to you, it exposes it to everyone who watches how they treat you. Every attempt to crush you broadcasts their fear. Every lie they tell about you exposes their dishonesty. Every time they try to erase you, they highlight your existence. It's like trying to hide fire with your hands. The more they touch it, the more it burns. This is how systems collapse, not in one day, not in one battle, but slowly as the attacks they use to protect themselves become the evidence that destroys them. You are not the victim of their fear, you are the signal of their end. This is the power of awakening. It doesn't just free you, it destabilizes every lie built around you, and that's why they shame and silence you. Not because you're wrong, but because you've become proof that they're not as strong as they pretend to be. Your courage to know makes you untouchable to manipulation. This is not poetic language, it's a psychological fact. Manipulation only works when two conditions exist, ignorance and fear. If you don't know you're being manipulated, and if you're afraid of what happens if you resist, you can be controlled indefinitely. But the moment you become aware, and the moment you decide you will not be ruled by fear, manipulation loses its grip. It's like a magician's trick. As long as your eyes are on the hand he wants you to see, the trick works. But once you know where to look, once you're no longer distracted, the illusion fails every time. This is the secret that every power structure tries to hide. Awareness and courage form an armor that cannot be penetrated. They can bribe you, they can threaten you, they can shame you, but if you refuse to be bribed, if you refuse to be threatened, if you refuse to be shamed, they have nothing left. They may take your comforts, they may take your reputation, but they cannot take your mind, and once your mind is your own, you are free in a way no system can handle. Think of it this way: manipulation thrives in emotional reaction. It feeds on your insecurity, your need to belong, your hunger for approval, your fear of loss. If they can make you doubt your own judgment, they can make you do anything. If they can make you desperate to be accepted, they can herd you like cattle. But your courage to know, to truly know, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely, destroys that leverage. Because you no longer need their approval to feel whole. You no longer need their permission to feel safe. You no longer need their lies to feel stable. This is why courage is rarer than intelligence. Intelligence without courage just creates clever slaves. Courage without knowledge creates reckless martyrs, but knowledge and courage together, that creates a human being who is ungovernable by deceit. And that is the nightmare of every manipulative force in history, because one such person can inspire thousands, and thousands can dismantle any empire built on lies. When you step into forbidden knowledge and stand your ground, you undergo a transformation that is invisible to most but undeniable to you. You stop flinching when you're threatened, you stop apologizing for seeing what you see, you stop negotiating your integrity. You develop a quiet, unshakable presence that cannot be replicated. That's why they panic, because manipulation only works when you're on a leash and courage cuts the leash. Look at the pattern throughout history. Societies don't fall because people become more violent. They fall because enough people become immune to propaganda. Revolutions aren't born from chaos, they're born from clarity, from people saying, "I see through this now, and I won't play the game anymore." That's what your courage does. It doesn't just protect you, it destabilizes every system trying to use you. You go from being a pawn to being an independent force, and no system built on deception can absorb an independent force. Courage to know is not loud or theatrical. It's not about shouting slogans or burning flags. It's about a private, internal decision. I will not lie to myself anymore. I will not unknow what I know. I will not pretend for the sake of comfort. That decision changes everything. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself, you can no longer be manipulated by their lies either. You become rooted in reality, and reality is stronger than any narrative. They will test you, they will try to break you, they will tempt you back into the herd, they will promise you comfort if you comply and chaos if you resist. But all of that is theater. It's noise designed to scare you into forgetting who you are. If you hold the line, if you choose knowledge over denial, truth over convenience, you walk out of their maze. And once you're out, you can see how small it really was, how flimsy the walls were, how weak the gatekeepers actually are. The courage to know is like an immune system for your mind. Once it's active, manipulation can't infect you the same way anymore. Propaganda stops working, peer pressure loses its power, threats shrink, you may still feel the sting, but you're no longer controlled by it. And once you're immune, you can't help but radiate that immunity to others. People sense it, they feel something different in you. They may not understand it at first, but they're drawn to it. They start questioning their own chains. This is how courage spreads, not with speeches, but with presence, with example. It's important to understand that courage doesn't mean fearlessness. Courage means fear no longer makes your decisions for you. You will still feel fear, you will still feel pressure. You will still be tempted to retreat, but you will not retreat. You will act in alignment with what you know, not with what you're told. And that single shift, acting from knowledge instead of fear, changes the entire game. It's the point where manipulation breaks down completely. This is why your courage to know makes you untouchable, because manipulation is always about trade-offs. If you do this, you'll lose that. If you say this, you'll be punished. If you resist, you'll be isolated. But when you have courage, those threats lose their sting. You realize the only thing you'd truly lose by complying is yourself. And once you refuse to lose yourself, no one can take you. They can strip everything else, but they cannot strip you of you. And that makes you the most powerful kind of person alive. This is what they fear. Not that you'll attack them, but that you'll stop believing in them. Not that you'll break their rules, but that their rules will stop mattering to you. Not that you'll overthrow them, but that you'll outgrow them. Courage is the ultimate escape. It's the moment the game stops working on you, and when the game stops working on enough people, the system itself collapses under the weight of its own emptiness. So understand this, your courage to know is not just self-defense, it's revolution in its purest form. It's the seed of every major transformation in history. It's why they panic when you wake up, because once you have it, you are not a pawn, a victim, or a statistic. You are a free human being, and no manipulation, no matter how sophisticated, can touch that. Once you step into forbidden knowledge, you can never return to the blindness that enslaves the majority. This is not a warning, it's a reality. There is no undoing a true awakening. There is no going back to the comfort of not knowing, no slipping quietly into the herd once you've seen the truth. The veil doesn't reseal itself. Once torn, it stays open forever, and though at first this can feel like a loss of innocence, a loss of belonging, it is, in fact, the birth of your power. Because the blindness that enslaves the majority isn't just ignorance, it's a form of anesthesia. It numbs people into compliance. When that anesthesia wears off, you feel the pain of reality at first, but then you feel the strength of it. This is the paradox. The world you awaken into is harsher, sharper, more complex than the world you were taught to see. But it's also more real, more alive, and far more liberating. You will never be able to sit through the same hollow speeches and believe them again. You will never again see authority figures as untouchable gods. You will never again confuse safety with submission. And though that means losing a certain kind of comfort, it also means you have gained something priceless: autonomy. Look at it this way. People still living in the blindness believe they're safe because they follow the rules, repeat the slogans, trust the script. They think obedience equals protection, they think ignorance equals peace, but you've learned the opposite. You've learned that obedience without truth is submission, and submission without awareness is slavery. That's why you can't go back, because even if you tried, even if you forced yourself to pretend, you'd feel the chains on your own hands. You'd feel the lie in your own mouth. You'd feel the weight of silence pressing against your conscience. This is why awakening is irreversible. The human mind cannot see what it has truly seen. You can repress it, but repression is torture. You can deny it, but denial is rot. The only way forward is through the discomfort, through the alienation, through the reorientation into a new life where truth, not illusion, becomes your foundation. And once you build on truth, your foundation cannot be shaken the way theirs can. It may be lonely at first, but it is unbreakable. This is also why those still in blindness sometimes resent you. They sense that you see something they don't. They sense that your freedom is real, and rather than face their own chains, they will try to pull you back into the cage with them. They'll call you cynical, negative, arrogant, even dangerous. They'll say you've changed, as though staying asleep were virtue. But this isn't you changing for the worse. It's you evolving beyond their frame. You can't grow once you've grown. You must understand, the blindness of the majority is not neutral. It's not harmless. It's the fuel that keeps corrupt systems alive. Without the masses consenting, obeying, and believing, the system collapses overnight. That's why it trains them to stay asleep. That's why it rewards compliance and punishes dissent. That's why it fears you, because your awakening isn't just a personal event, it's a contagion. The moment you live as though the illusion isn't real, you weaken it for everyone. The moment you show others it's possible, you open a crack in their own walls. And cracks, once opened, only spread. You will notice this effect over time. People who mocked you may later approach you quietly, asking questions. People who rejected you may begin to echo your insights without even realizing it. People who dismissed you may one day thank you for planting the seed. This is the silent power of an awakened life. You don't have to preach. You don't have to fight. Your very being is a challenge to the system. Your very existence outside the cage shows others the door exists, and yet you must also accept the cost. Awakening strips away illusions of belonging. You will lose some relationships. You will lose some comforts. You will lose the ability to find meaning in shallow entertainment, hollow rituals, and false hierarchies. But what you gain dwarfs what you lose. You gain clarity. You gain resilience. You gain the ability to stand alone and not crumble. You gain a connection to reality that no one can take from you, and once you have that, you can build a life that isn't built on lies. The blindness that enslaves the majority is a soft prison. Its bars are invisible, but its power is real. People decorate their cells, compete for better positions inside the cage, even laugh at those who try to escape. But once you've seen the door, once you've walked out, the cage can never feel like home again. That's why they panic when someone leaves. Because your escape threatens the illusion of safety for those still inside. It shows them the cage is not inevitable. And that's terrifying for them, but liberating for you. This is why stepping into forbidden knowledge is the point of no return. It's the point at which you become responsible for your own mind, your own choices, your own future. There's no more just following orders, no more just doing what everyone else does. That's not a curse. That's the birth of adulthood in its highest form. Most people live their entire lives as obedient children in adult bodies. You have chosen to grow up, and once you've grown up, you cannot shrink back down. In the long run, this is your strength. You will navigate life differently. You will make decisions others can't. You will avoid traps they walk straight into. You will see opportunities they're blind to. You will develop an internal compass that points to reality, not to the latest narrative. That compass will guide you through storms others cannot survive. It will make you more dangerous to systems of control, but also more valuable to people who crave the truth. So remember this, there is no going back. But there is going forward, and forward is freedom. Forward is building a life on your own terms. Forward is becoming the kind of person who no longer needs illusions to feel alive. Forward is the reason you stepped into forbidden knowledge in the first place. You didn't come this far to return to sleep. You came this far to wake up fully and to live as the rarest kind of person in this age, one who truly sees. This is why the majority remains enslaved. This is why they panic when you awaken. And this is why you can never go back. Not because you've lost something, but because you've gained everything.